Hey, everybody, it is your host, Jim Johnson, and super excited about this particular episode because about a year ago, I got invited to go to a special event called High Capacity Leaders, and I didn't really know what it was about. I knew it was kind of a John Maxwell thing. My first instinct was like, how much does somebody want to charge me for that? And I come to find out, it was like they were looking for guys like me and the guy I'm going to bring on that they wanted to be with and hang out with. And we're going to talk about impact-driven leadership. And this guy not only lives it, does it, and all that other good stuff, he's going to be doing an event about it that hang out towards the end of the show. He'll share a link and everything on that if you are looking to make an impact as a leader and be intimate with other leaders that are of the upper echelon, this might be just the place for you. But I want to talk about what making an impact as a leader means and why we might be driven by it. So I'm super excited to bring in one of the top network marketers in the world. And I love those guys. They build these groups that have to follow them, and they choose to follow them because of the impact they're making. And so welcome to the show, my man, Tyler Dickerhoof. Welcome aboard, man.
And so good to be here. As you were sharing that in the open, and in fact, it was almost a year ago now we met each other. Dude, I just think back to the fun and, the relationships that are made in those moments that you don't know what you're stepping into, but then you realize over the year. I think about everyone that was in that room and then the event that we were at in March. And man, how imperative people like yourself and I can go through the list of others are in each of our lives to help us continue to grow. So, man, I'm excited we get to do this.
Yeah, like we've stayed in contact for a year. Like we walked into a room and we went, hey, there's a bunch of guys here with some valuable information. And not only do they have valuable information, they're actually likable. They're cool. I like them. And so it's great to have you on the show. We've been wanting to do this for a little while. We both run pretty busy schedules. So when I say the word impact-driven leader, like put them all together like that, what does it mean to you, Tyler?
Well, I mean, it's a purpose. It's a purpose that's been put on my heart. So, you mentioned John Maxwell. John's been an absolute catalyst in my life to help bring out kind of the purpose of my life. And several years ago, I was searching for a mentor. And my wife and I just kind of randomly found an advertisement for a program that he had. It was called the Executive Circle. And that was for corporate executives, CEOs, COOs, you name a C, something O, and it fit in there. Our business was network marketing, but I'd come from a background of being a nutritionist for dairy cows. I'd been in consulting. I had that, and I didn't want to be around other network marketers because they're either cool or they're weird. And there's more weird than there are cool sometimes. And it's like, I want to go just be around other business people, because you mentioned it in the open, and I appreciate that. It's like network marketing is a leadership catalyst. It is a crucible of building leadership, because how can you get people to follow you that don't have to? It's one thing, you're a contractor, right? You hire somebody, or maybe you're a foreman, and they're like, dude, if you want to work here, you have to follow that guy. Network marketing, kind of like churches, volunteer organizations, you don't have to. You get to pick and choose. So we go to this event, and quickly I realized this was the most unique and different environment that I'd ever been in. I'd worked in the corporate world. I'd worked for Cargill for 5 years. I'd had my own business. We had kind of been in network marketing. We'd had success. And, in some of those rooms, you felt, empowered and welcomed. Other rooms, you felt like they don't care. They just want to make money off your back. And when I first stepped into that room with John and understood him, and we were at Chick-fil-A headquarters and how they went about things, it was like, oh no, they're here to serve me. They're here to help me be better. They're here to help me make an impact. And that's what really kind of started this idea of being impact driven. It's not about success. It's not about what can I gain. It's not about what accolade or promotion or rank or whatever else. It's how can I help others and serve others? How can I help them reach their purpose or live out their, giftings? And that was really this idea of being impact driven, of being more significant, aligned rather than, hey, how can I get success? So that's kind of where it started.
Yeah, it's really awesome. You sent me, a message the other day. Hey, I'm going to do this event. You mind sharing it? I'm like, absolutely, man. And I looked at it, I'm like, okay, that's in alignment with me because I hear so much about this concept of legacy. I hear that a lot. Legacy leadership. You see a lot of things about that, and those two things are different to me: legacy and impact.
Yeah.
Legacy always seems a bit self-serving, like my legacy. People tend to have that kind of connotation to it, where impact to me isn't me looking for any accolades. It's this thing, I'm going to go do this thing. I'm going to do this thing well, serve you well, provide value to you. And whether it comes back that, hey, Jim Johnson did that or not is inconsequential. Don't care. I'm not looking for any kind of accolades like that. And I always look at that as impact. So 1,000 years from now, something that I shared to somebody today has got to this guy and that guy and this guy and that guy and this gal and this girl, like all down the line. And somehow or another, 1,000 years in the future, I may have had a little impact on somebody. That's cool to me.
Let me give you as you're sharing that, and yes, absolutely. And I think back, several years ago, we had a bit of a staff. We had a couple different businesses. We had our gym. We were, kind of managing some real estate, all those things. And, the gym has gone by, and the real estate has evolved into not needing us being involved in it. And one of the things I realized is we had an employee, and she left our business to go start her own coaching business. And there was this little bit of tension. I'm like, but no, I'm excited for you. Like, I'm excited for you. No different coming back to network marketing. I've, people that have grown in the business and either gotten healthier, done whatever they've done, and then take those principles and go place them somewhere else. That excites me. And part of that's being impact driven. It's being an incubator rather than an incinerator. And I stop and think about you. And we think about your contracting business and having the business of people. Would you be more upset? And you stop and think about it. And, you could have evolved over times. But if you think your key person, your number one guy, your number one, salesperson, whoever he or she is, right? And if they all of a sudden decide, hey, Jim, man, I'm going to go launch maybe a competitive business, maybe a parallel business, maybe something different. Are you upset about that? Or are you excited about that?
So that's great that you mentioned that. So I was a contractor for several years, many, many years, did very, very well. Had lots of great people that we didn't look at ourselves as a contracting company. We looked at ourselves as a leadership growth organization that just happened to do roofing and siding and windows and fun stuff like that. And people would rise up, learn, gain information, grow personally, achieve things, reach potential they hadn't before. And when I was young and first into the business, that would happen, right? Somebody would like, hey, I'm going to go start my own. I've learned what I need to learn. Better,
or dude,
I was super mad about it. I was like, oh my goodness, I just invested all this time and energy. And that's actually something that happens in the contracting industry quite a bit. It's how most of them start. They're either really good at the work they do and they get referral on the side work, and then they become an entrepreneur, and then they start their business that way, or they're really good at the sales side of things, and so they know how to actually generate revenue. They tend to miss a very important piece, which is like how to run a business and that kind of stuff. But I used to get really mad about it, but I had a breakthrough in my life about 25 years ago. And I kind of broke into this world of, hey, how do I serve people better? How do I provide value to people better? Be more selfless than selfish. And I announced to everybody, you want to go start your own? You come to me and I will walk you through it and help you get there. If that's what you want to do, I want to help you get there. And today, super proud of it. There's over 70 companies that had worked through me or had been a part of my organization. It's kind of like downline type situation. And now I get to coach a whole bunch of people, helping them build that as well. And they're going through the same thing. They're going through the same thing like, oh my God, my top sales guy's leaving and all this other stuff. I'm like, you should be high-fiving that guy. That means you did a great job as a leader.
Absolutely. Well, that to me is impact. That to me, if you think about a legacy, if you try to pursue legacy, like you mentioned earlier, it becomes very selfish. But if you go pursue impact, that leaves a legacy. And,
I can see that.
It's this idea. If I help people, if I support people, if I serve people in a way that is not selfish, but is serving them, it's going to serve me ultimately because it's going to fulfill my purpose, but it's going to encourage them to do amazing things. And that idea of being an incubator, if you help people grow, that means people in your organization are growing. And some of them may want to go do their own thing, do something different. A lot of them are going to stay. But if you actively work to burn people out and put a lid on them and kind of put them under your thumb, they're going to leave, and they're going to do so begrudgingly. And that is going to be toxic to everyone else.
Oh, yeah.
And then it's going to be internally toxic, but it's going to be externally toxic. Because then all of a sudden people are like, well, I don't going to want to go work with him. Or it comes to referral clients. It's like, well, I don't know if you want to work with Jim. He's all about himself. And it's like, that doesn't help anyone. And I think, and again, embracing that idea of being an incubator. And one of the biggest challenges that we face in organizations, you talk about this business coaching and having this sales or this, actually doing the work, right? Those separate those two and some intertwined or whatever, in the competition. And where people struggle as business leaders is they compete with people within their business.
Ooh, that's good.
If I all of a sudden say I'm working for you, right? And I'm one of your lead coaches now, however that may be. And all of a sudden, I am growing my business, and say maybe I'm growing in a new and different way that you can recognize is going to take me out of the role that you have for me. And you're looking at this saying, this is not good. This is not good. I need to steer him back into the ways that I need him because I need it. And then all of a sudden you start competing with me for my time.
Yeah, you said I a lot.
What?
You said I a lot. It was all about you.
Yeah. What does that do in the business? It creates toxicity. And so all of a sudden, all of that competition is, internalized between the two of us instead of saying, hey, man, if you were to turn around and say, Tyler, you're growing in an area that we haven't really grown in. Dude, go chase it because I realize that supports everyone else in our business. How can I support you? I don't need to compete with your time. How can I either kick you out of the nest? How can I make sure that you grow in an area where obviously you're being fulfilled, or two, is fulfilling people around you? That's good for everyone. And again, that competition now all of a sudden turns external in how can we serve people in a bigger and better way? And that's always beneficial.
That's so good. You see that hold a lot of businesses back, that the leader doesn't want anybody to be better than them. They actually do things competitive to keep them down and hold a man down, right? But I do see more.
Here's something though I want is, and think about yourself as you've seen that. Most people don't realize that's what they're doing. They think, I'm protecting my business. I'm making sure my business is focused. I'm making sure that our system is just dialed in, because if we add that tweak to the system, and I just listened to your system podcast, so that's what I'm talking about. System is, if I'm thinking about this is the system that I've devoted so much time and it's dialed in, and if he thinks there's a better way, well, I spent so much time, instead of thinking, oh, you have a better way? Well, let's figure out if it's better. That's great. If it's better, then add it to the system.
It's so good. I think so much of it is driven by ego and pride, that somebody else might have the light shined on them, that you were successful, and you're like, well, that wasn't me, that was him. So I have to do it all in order for me to get the accolades or the recognition, where the real recognition comes from building amazing leaders that take your company to places you would have never been able to get to without them. That's my favorite part of what it's like a competition for me, except in reverse. I am competing to see how many leaders I can build that are better than me, because I don't think I'm all that great, to be honest with you, but I want them to surpass wherever I am so that they can move on and make an impact throughout the world in a very special way that fits their talents and skills. And it's so weird for them. They're not used to it. Whenever they come into my world and we're talking about what that looks like, they're like, what do you mean you want to make me the star of the platform, the star of the thing? And I'm like, yeah, it's about you guys. I want you guys to have a lot of success. And it's just very uncomfortable for people a lot of times. And I do think it's a fear and ego and pride thing that somebody else is going to get the recognition you think you deserve.
Let's dig in there.
Okay.
Why do I do what I do? Why is it impact driven? Because there's days that it wasn't. There were days that it was very much the fear based. It was very much of the what value do I have? So when you talk about that ego, when you talk about that pride, when you talk about some of the arrogance, when you talk about some of those things, to me, those are all symptoms, outward symbols, identified symptoms of our insecurities showing.
Your true character and your desire of your heart, what your heart truly desires.
I wouldn't go that far. I think sometimes our heart has one thing in line, but the from a spiritual basis. All right. I'm a person of faith. I know you are as well. And kind of incorporate this. If you're listening or not, that's fine. That's okay. Just this is a thought basis that we can go from wherever. But if you think about, you were made for a purpose. And I just came up with it, just thought about this. If you're made for a purpose, right? And you want to pursue that purpose, what's the way to get you off of that purpose? To tell you lies that you're not made for that purpose. And so what are those lies? Those lies are attaching to your insecurity. Hey, Jim, you can't help people grow a business because you barely grew a business yourself. Oh, you got lucky because of the right timing, whatever else. I'm just making stuff up, but those are insecurity lies. Those are lies. And there is one universal truth that I have figured out in life. One absolute truth. Every single person walking this earth that is taking a breath, one truth. We all have insecurities. You, me, everyone listening has an insecurity or more.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And that's a truth.
Like sitting there, like I was listening to what you're saying, like there were certainly things that, when I decided to do this coaching thing that I could go, hey, I actually built a really big contracting business. So I have that like as a credential, right? I helped build some software for the industry. So I understand process and system and stuff like that. So I had that as credential. But there was all these doubts of like, well, maybe that was just my way. Maybe there's a different way out there that I don't know. And I haven't ever been a business or leadership coach before. So what makes me think I can be one now? And I had my own problems in my business and things like that I wish I could have done better. Like you had all that, like that negative self-talk. And then you have the worldly negative talk.
Well, you're talking about, the people that are maybe not in your inner circle, but people a little bit out. It's like, Jim, how can you go coach somebody? I know you're screwing it up. I know that you've had these or those problems.
I know you had a bookkeeper steal $585,000 from your company.
How can you go advise people? How can you go coach people?
Because I know what not to do now.
And that is what the truth insecurity tells you. But it takes that belief and it takes others. But one of the things for me is I had to recognize and understand how my insecurities were showing up, because that kept me from making an impact. That kept me from building relationships with people. And so often my barrier to my insecurity was being intense. That was the one that I went to first and foremost. So I will put my head down and push. Oh, you don't think I can do it? Watch me. Put my head down and just push. And, a lot of times when that came with, working with others, that was really hard, because all of a sudden, here are these I grew up on a farm, man. I grew up where it was working long hours and there was no lunch break. It was not an 8 hour. It wasn't a, 4-10s. It wasn't where you're given times a break. It was like, oh, you're up at 5 a.m. and then you're done when you're done, maybe when it's dark or it's 9 o'clock at night. And guess what? You're still do it again the next day.
Just all you could do
where was your break? That there's breaks here? Like, how does this work? Like, I got to, baling hay. I got to have a break in between wagons. And that was anywhere from a minute to, if there was a breakdown, I got a little bit more, but then there's something else to do because it broke down. All right. So how did I pursue life in my worth and my value? Is I just put my head down and push. And I realized then through this kind of journey is, this is the problem when you use intensity as an armor. meaning, oh, you don't think I can do it? Watch me, right? And just push. Oh, we need to get more, how many roofs can we do this month? I bet we can do a lot more. So let's push, right? That intensity, that drive.
Right.
And you push everyone away. You become a bulldozer that just leaves carnage. Sure. You push through a mountain. You took down a 150-foot, 10-foot wide redwood. Sure. Great. And guess what? You look around and all there are bodies. And there are people that are burnout. You're incinerated.
That's an incubator versus incinerator.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so I had to learn that it's like, oh, that doesn't work. That can't work. I had to take a step back and what the reality was is my insecurity was showing in those intense moments. Because my insecurity said, you're not valuable enough. You don't have anything to bring to people.
May come from leaders not knowing what they want. It's one of the discussions we have whenever we're coaching is like, what do you want out of this person in this role? Let's define it. Like, what is acceptable? Yeah. Now, once we get to there, everything should be about them and their personal growth and where they want to go and what they want to achieve, helping them achieve their potential. But whenever you say, hey, here's the barrier, right? Like here's the number or the thing or the achievement, whatever it may be. And then you move the line. Like contractors are famous for this. I want you to sell this much this month. And any sales organizations like this. Like,
I was going to say contractors fine, but I think it applies everywhere.
Yeah, it's any sales organization. You sell a certain amount in a month or a quarter or a year, depending on your sales organization, and you nail it. What do they do to you the next year?
Great. Now go do 10% more.
10% more. Like I thought that's what you wanted. Let's just hire another person that can do that. And awesome. Now I got 2 people and twice as much instead of squeezing the last little juice out of the guy and burning them out and not having them be in a place where they get to enjoy a lifestyle that is provided by the vehicle that you provide them. I made that mistake a lot. And I
a lot of leaders do. Well, a lot of leaders do because they don't know. They don't know a different way. They haven't been led. Maybe why did they do that? We come back to Jack Welch. What did he do? Jack Welch is like, hey, bottom 10%, we call you off. You're done. Top 10%, you get promoted. Well, then all of a sudden, this idea in sales organizations, you see a lot of medical sales. You can see it in any sales. It's like, your quota, your monthly quota, and like your annual budget quota. And then all of a sudden, people start playing the game. Oh, if I sell 120%, if I make that sale that's going to put me over on, June 30th, we have June 30th coming, say, I think the last Friday, right? It's 27th. Okay. It's the last day of the month before the weekend, before the first. How many people, right? As we're recording this, I understand releases. How many people are going to have this in organizations? Friday, you have somebody make a sale. Hey, we're going to put this for the first. Because if I put it on today, it's going to make my sales go over. So I'm going to load it on the first. So that way it helps my July numbers, because July is tough because you got 4th of July in the middle of the week and you got to play that game, and you just start playing games. And all of a sudden, whatever you did 6 months ago, when you told Bob, hey, Bob, you did great, I'm going to raise your 10%. And then all of a sudden, everyone else in the organization starts playing the quota game. And you can watch it. The end of the month, the last day of the month, it's like, hey, man, we're a little slow today. First, the Monday of the month, like, man, we are kicking it. You have a culture problem where you're focused on the results and not the person.
Oh, man, that's so good. So it's funny we're talking about this because and I can't mention any names. So I was at a client. Okay. And that client has a former manufacturer's rep working for him. Okay. And the manufacturer's rep was taking over for the guy that was retiring. The guy that was retiring said, look, here's the deal. You're going to hit your quota. There is no doubt about that. You need to turn it off so that you don't get an extreme set on you the next year. And
100%.
you're probably going to hit your quota in the first 4 to 5 months. Then you can just coast it out, man. You don't have to do.
100%.
I'm like, what kind of culture did they just create? Right? There's no culture of achievement or competition or a striving to reach one's potential, and having understanding that market conditions can change. And so, yeah, we had a killer year this year, and maybe you had a little bit of a backslide the next year. Is that okay? Like, it can be okay, right?
Well, the reality is, like, that's life. And I've been through that. And like, it kills me that, again, when you're so short-sighted, right? We talked about this, the difference between being legacy driven. Hey, man, I got to have a legacy. We got to just pour and pour and pour. Or, hey, I have this easy legacy where I just have year after year after year growth. It's like, but that's not reality unless it's manufactured. Life doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. I mean, even if you look at it like, we can go body weight, you can jump on a scale, and someone losing weight, gaining weight, it isn't a straight line. It just, nature doesn't work like that. And this idea of, if we're so finite focused, and Simon Sinek in his book, Infinite Games, has this great focus on, it's like, if you're finite, man, you're losing. But infinite is, we're just going to roll on. So it's knowing, it's like, hey, yeah, you may hit your quota in the first 4 or 5 months, but let's look at the bigger deal. Like, this is what's going on. This is the macro side of things. Continue to push. Because if we help drive those profits, that's going to help us next year. And we have no idea what's going to happen. We have a new election. We don't know what's going to happen in Federal Reserve. We don't know what's going to happen in banking. We don't know what's going to happen to all of these things. And if we can help, serve people and capture profits and deliver a good result now, that's going to give us a longer runway next year. Yeah. That's being big picture focused instead of being short term. And yet we've created that culture in organizations because our leadership is broken, because people are operating in protection of their insecurities.
Well, here's the beauty of the end of that story. This new manufacturer's rep went, I don't care what you did before. I'm going to go blow it out of the water. And he did. He just crushed it. Became one of the top reps for that manufacturer, set new goals and records for everybody. And like, he was wired that way. He wasn't encouraged that way. And it's kind of one of those things, you almost got lucky, right? To have somebody wired that way. And then they started to realize, like, hey, maybe we've been going about this the wrong way. And so that he actually had an impact by shifting the whole organization to think differently about those numbers. And so like, I want to ask you some key questions about impact-driven leadership. I had a couple of, we've had some really good stories.
Actually, I have some questions to talk about, not just talk.
And if you guys can hear a train, can you hear a train?
It's good, yeah.
Can you hear the train?
I can hear the train. Train's coming.
Okay, sorry, guys. I didn't know a train was going to go by.
That's good.
Well, hey, this is one of the things. I get to live a certain type of lifestyle because I've designed it to be so. And I don't want to be in my office every day. I want to go and see things and do things and be with the people that I love and care about, and see this beautiful planet that God's created for us. And so it allows me to travel. And so when I travel, I'm actually in an RV right now, hanging out at a campground doing this podcast, because when I get done with this podcast, I'm going to go fly fishing tonight. And I can't fly fish where I live. I want to go do that and enjoy that. And so
here's something I want to pour into you for a moment, Jim.
I teach that to my people, and I teach that to our clients. Like, your business should be a vehicle to create the lifestyle that you're desiring, or why do it all in the first place?
Can I pour into you for a moment? And it's something I've had to learn. There's so often when you think of production quality, right? Oh man, I want the sound to be perfect. I don't want anything to bother.
Like, I'm cool.
Right? And you've had those at times, because like, man, the listener deserves it to be just premium. The client deserves it to be premium, right? But here's the reality of that.
I'd rather it be authentic and real.
That doesn't happen. Let's go. I'm the studio I'm in, right? And I framed it out. Okay. I'm not a framer. And this is coming back to you. I'm serving you. I'm not a framer. Have I put in some frame? Yes, I have. And so in this, it's a 16 by 20, and there is a false wall that I put in, 2 closets and some barn doors. If I turn around the camera, you can see it. And so on one side, if you were to look at the framing, you'd be like, dude, what were you doing? Because I, unfortunately, in the measuring whatever, I was off by a 1 3/4 inches. So I had to put in an extra 2 by 4. The other side looks perfect, right? It's just perfect. And here's the reality is being able to own that. It on the outside, it's right now, it's holding on. It does not matter. The same as if you're building and knowing those things are going to happen, that's just life. It's how do you fix it? And it's more important. If you are saying, hey, I want you to embrace creating a lifestyle where you can spend time with family, where you can go travel, and all of a sudden we weren't hearing the train, and you were in this perfect studio all the time. It's like, is he real or is he just telling me a story?
No, actually, I thought the train was a great addition. I really did. And it was like he blew the horn because he knew we were talking about some pretty awesome stuff.
Perfect. Yes. Yeah. So, I mean, in that, it is just this further evidence to people that are listening. It's like, hey, more importantly in our world right now is choose to be authentic.
Oh, yeah.
If you want to make an impact, I mean, you got to be authentic and you got to be vulnerable. And you're coming back to insecurity, the solution to your insecurity. All of us have this. The solution that I understood and I figured out is being empathetic. And that people can get confused because they're like, well, I've heard this. Does that mean I got to put on their work boots? But they got stinky feet. I don't want to put those on.
There's a difference between empathy and sympathy.
Well, but here's how I defined it, and it's helped me the most. And I joke if somebody says, oh, empathy is putting yourself in someone else's shoes. And I'm like, yeah, that's going to hurt for one of us. I wear a size 13. I don't know what you wear, Jim, but if I put my feet in yours, if say you got a size 10 or my brother's size 10, that's going to hurt. Yeah, and that's going to hurt. That's going to hurt one of us. It doesn't work. But here's what does work. If I come alongside you and I lift my arm up and I put my arm around you, now let's go walk. I don't care if you're 7'6" and I got to put my arm like this, that works. And if you got to put your arm, that works. And see, empathy, when you put your arm around someone, there's also one other key component that has to be. I can't put my arm around you and not be genuine. So I got to be authentic and genuine. But I also have to be vulnerable. I just expose myself. If you wanted to just walk around and crack me in the ribs, that'd hurt. I have to be vulnerable and I have to accept that. And the only way to be empathetic and walk with someone and expose your insecurities are be authentic and be vulnerable and know that, hey, yeah, I struggle with it. Guess what? We all do. It's okay. I have to, if we're talking again about a contractor, you think about it, I have to struggle with if someone leaves my business, that they're going to go do it better than I. Yeah, I got to struggle with it. I have to own that. Because I'm afraid that if they go do better than I, then it's going to look bad on me. But when they don't stop and realize when someone goes and does it better than you and you help them do it better than you, they're going to look back and they'll say, Jim, thank you so much. Thank you so much for helping me get to where I'm at. And all of a sudden someone comes along and said, hey, again, Bob, I want to do what you did. It's like, hey, go work for Jim. He's going to help you because he's who helped me. But it takes that vulnerability and that authenticity to embrace your insecurities and say, hey, excuse me, my insecurities are showing. Just don't mind me. My insecurities are showing. I'm sorry. It did. It's okay. And all of a sudden that authenticity and vulnerability, people are like, hey, I like that.
He's a real person. He's like a real human being.
Yeah. Hey, sometimes our crew, we put the wrong color shingles on. It happens. I am sorry. We'll fix it. We'll make it right. It happens. I'm sorry. We got two houses. We have a 6018 and a 6081. And the 6018 was a black shingle and the 6081 was a gray shingle. And we sent them to the wrong spot. I am sorry. We're going to fix it. It happens. And the customer is going to be like, yeah, that sounds pretty I can get that. You're going to fix it and you're going to make it a party. Great. Thank you so much. Hey, you know what? Let me tell you about Jim's roofing company. This is what happened to them and they came and made it right. Dude, I will work with them forever because that's what people really do. I don't know why we got off on that topic, but that was
that was awesome. So I've been listening to the conversation, and it feels like you're sharing some characteristics of an impact-driven leader. They're vulnerable, they're authentic, they're genuine, they're service-oriented. Yeah. They celebrate the success of others. Am I on the right track?
Yeah. And
any other characteristics?
Well, I think part of that is their.
I forgot empathy. Got to have that one too.
Yeah, empathy is key. They're not afraid to not embrace. I think a part of it in this is embracing your fears and insecurities, because you're never going to be able to remove them. You just have to embrace them, and then understand there's a lot of ownership. Own how they show up. And then the next piece to that, and this is what I teach in my course, Awaken the Leader Within, the next step is, so it is recognizing your fears and insecurities, because we all have them. Own how they show up, how they affect people. And then you're never going to remove them, but you're going to be able to change your mindset and beliefs about them. Hey, my insecurity is that I don't have value. My insecurity is that I don't have value for people. So what will I do? I will try to get into conversations, and I will just tell them about everything I know and everything that I can do. And I've had to recognize, oh, hey, that's what makes it uncomfortable. And that's when my insecurity is showing. And so it comes back to, as you mentioned earlier, when you're willing to recognize that, hey, my job is to help you do your job better. It isn't about what I know or what I can do. It's how I can serve you. That's been the biggest evolution and journey that I've made in letting go of that intensity being the armor of what I need to, how I need to pursue myself. For some people, I've realized it's inactivity. It's the, I don't want to make the hard phone call. I shared about earlier the house. You put the wrong color shingles on, and it's like, hey, Jim, can you handle that? Because I don't want to make that call, because then they're going to be upset, or maybe they just won't know, right? And
you're mentioning another characteristic. This is one of the big ones. Not having fear of conflict, like something didn't go right.
Embracing it. Well, have you read the book Crucial Conversations? I think it was Joseph Granny. I may be wrong on that. I don't think it was Patrick. Crucial Conversations, great book. And one of the things that I've come to realize in life, there are two great outcomes from every difficult conversation. There's two great outcomes. You either grow in relationship, you grow together, or you go.
Oh, I like that.
You grow or you go. That's it. Difficult conversation. Let's have it. We're either going to grow together. Man, I'm being empathetic. We're growing together. Or you give me that punch in the ribs. I'm like, you're done. We're gone. Good. Difficult. Some conversation handled. Okay.
That used to be one of my insecurities, is handling conflict. There's conflict throughout, like, especially if you own a contracting business, like there's going to be conflict on a daily basis every day. And you try to avoid it.
Why do you think? Why do you think you feared that?
Oh, because I didn't think I was up to the challenge. I didn't think I could navigate the conversation in a productive and valuable way for the other person. Okay. And so instead of just going out there and going school of hard knocks about it, I actually went and did some study on it. I actually started reading and studying and learning and going to those other leaders that were really good at conflict resolution and learning from them, so that I could understand better what somebody else was going through and have those hard conversations. And I also had a bit of me that's like, I'm up for any challenge. I suck at this thing. I'm going to go get great at this thing. Yeah. And now, I'm just waiting for the next conflict resolution moment. Like, when is there a problem? Let's have that conversation.
You went out and you found the tools.
Yeah.
You found the tools to help you. If I stop, as you're thinking about that, and I was thinking, in those challenges that I've had where I don't want to handle those, it's then I don't know if I know how to solve it. Right. Mm-hmm. And part of that is like you managing that conversation, is having the right tools, is leading to a solution.
Well, sometimes I think you know how to solve it. You don't want to solve it that way. for example, you put the shingles on the wrong house, you know you just have a big loss. You have to tear that off, buy new materials, pay the crew, like the whole bit again. It's going to be $7,000-8,000 out of your pocket. Minimum. That's not what I want to do.
Minimum, right? But
minimum. But what's the right thing to do? And you know the right thing. So make the phone call. Mrs. Jones, we screwed up. We're going to make it right. I'm going to have my crew out there tomorrow. We're going to put it exactly the way it was supposed to. I own the problem, but I'm going to still make sure you have a great experience. How do you think that phone call goes? It's like, great. The homeowner loves it. They're like, oh,
because you took ownership.
People make mistakes.
Yeah. I mean, it's in that to me is when you know that's the solution and you're empowered to do it, that's easy, right? It's I'm not empowered to make that. Hey, try to sell the customer on the gray shingle. Hey, we'll give them a 25% discount. I'm like, that's not the right thing to do. But when you're in that situation, those are really, really hard conversations. And I've been in that mode. I've been told that. It's like, oh, we screwed up. Try to sell it to them. Try to get them to accept. Like, that's not the right thing to do. Those are the hard times. And I think part of it is one, how do you go about finding that, leading in a better way to say, that's not the right thing to do, and having that strength to do it.
Even if that was the solution that you would like, you should give the solution that's also right. And say, hey, Mr. Jones, we can go either way. We can tear the whole thing off and redo it all on our dime and put it exactly the way you wanted, or we can save you 25% on this great. Like, give them both options. Let them choose.
Yeah. And it's having been in some of those situations, it's amazing how people, when they're part of the solution, they embrace it. And I think that all comes back to that's having empathy. Because when you called that homeowner, what did you do when you gave them solutions and you said, hey, you put your arm around them and said, let's walk through this together?
I'm going to have to walk through with my crew and some other people too, but we're going to have some fun walks.
Yeah. And go ahead.
Well, I was going to ask you, like, the way we met was by being in a room with a bunch of other people. I don't know about you, but I was a little bit uncomfortable. I'm used to being in a room where, and not to be egotistical or anything, but people are looking to me for answers, right? And now I'm in this room and going, hey, I got some questions. I would love to ask those questions. I was a bit insecure. I caught it right away. Mindful of it, I'm like, I don't care. I'm going to talk to everybody, get to know everybody, see if I can add value to them. That was my first thing. Like, how can I provide value to you? And then if it came back around, awesome. If it didn't, don't care. One way or the other, my job is to give value to you. And to have it not only be so welcoming, like, that was the crazy part. Everybody was in it, right? Like, did you notice that about the thing? Like, everybody was doing the same thing I was doing. Like, how do I help you with your thing?
Yeah.
And even like the Maxwell organization was, we're here to help you with your thing. That was such a weird place. And so when I
it's a different world, isn't it?
How do I get into more rooms like that? And how do I create that type of environment? It sounds like that's what you're doing with this impact driven leader thing. Is that a fair assessment?
100%, because that's what John's done for me.
Yeah.
I've had I mentioned earlier, the executive circle, being at Chick-fil-A and being in that room, and Mark Miller, who is the executive vice president of leadership, serving me. He took my tray. He asked me, hey, do you need anything? He took my tray. I'm dead serious in the room. And it's like, oh, this is different. And it wasn't that, hey, what can you get from me, or justify your existence. It was, you're here. You're a person of value. We value you. So glad you're here. How can we serve you? And that came from John, that came from Mark Cole, that came from everyone in the organization that I've known now for, going on 7 years. And so that room that you talked about last March, that wasn't the first time I've been in that room. And so what was fun for me is Chad Johnson, who put on that room. And if you're listening, you're interested in a couple of the rooms. I'll talk about one of the rooms I'm putting together, but there's also another room here in August that the Maxwell organization is putting together. We'll have those links, right, Jim? But it wasn't the first time I'd been in that room. And so knowing Chad had put that room together, it was fun for me to sit back and watch. And just as my insecurities over the years have kind of melted away, and all of a sudden I don't need to prove to John that I'm worthy to be here, because he's already said, Tyler, you deserve to be here. I don't need to prove to Chad Johnson that I deserve to be in the room. It's more of like, am I holding up my end of the bargain in with responsibility, making sure everyone else is comfortable to be in the room and helping that.
You nailed that so well. I didn't feel like anybody there felt like they were trying to prove their worthiness of being there. They wouldn't have been there if they didn't, right? That was a really cool.
To a point, that has been my experience with John. And I've been in a lot of rooms now with him over, the years, and I've had great opportunities. I've gone on trips with him. And this is the two things that I've realized. There are two people that came to that event. There will be two people that come to the event that I'm holding here the end of July in Coeur d'Alene. There'll be people that come into the room that have worked in organizations where they need to prove their worth. In their insecurity, they have the armor up. And I've been there. It's okay. And then there will be people that armor will come off. See, the people where the armor doesn't come off, they'll never show up again. Because they're going back to that ego, that pride, that is overwhelming them. Their insecurity is so ingrained that they're not willing to take that off and set it aside. They're not willing to embrace empathy and letting people see the real them, because unfortunately our society has ingrained that into them. Or you have certain people out there that speak and coach or whatever else and drive people to think that the solution is to be more intense, is to be more arrogant, to be more in your face. And there's salespeople all day long that tell you that, hey, you're 300 pounds. I'm not going to even talk to you unless you're 4% body fat, right? I don't need to say the other bald person that says that, right? You can go figure it out. It doesn't work, because someday that person is leading others. And all of a sudden then it's all burnt up an incinerator and there's no incubating. And so coming back into that room, and as you talked about, and I appreciate you sharing, because I've experienced that, where it's, hey, how can I help you? You're a person of value. How can I be of value to you? Because who? John Maxwell. He set that standard because that's what he lives and examples. And so the extension of me being a servant of John's is like, how can I make more of those rooms? Because that has changed my life and helped me be a totally different person, a different husband, a different father, a different leader. And I want to be able to serve others in that same way. So come into the room, be around people that are excited to see you because you have value. And it's not just a dollar sign. It has nothing to do with dollars.
That's really good, Tyler. Because John has had a massive impact on you. He's had massive impact on me. Some of it known, some of it unknown. Like I've been a follower for years of John's. Consumed just about everything he's ever written. Watched just about every video that I can ever get my hands on. Yeah. I was one of those guys that bought the tapes and decks and stuff like that way back in the day. That's how old I am. And now after reconnecting, I'm going, hey, how do I impact people in a way like that? And so you doing this event and saying, hey, I'm going to be doing this event. This is one of those ways. Like I can impact some people by getting them there with you. Who else is going to be there? I know John's going to be there to speak and share, but who else is going to be there?
So Graham Cochran, we met Graham. Back
Graham's awesome.
Graham is there. Has a new book coming out called Rebel. It's about really mindset belief. Jake Thompson, who is amazing speaker. He was just noted as one of the top leadership speakers to hear in 2024. He lives in Texas. He has a book called Lead Better Now and Compete Every Day. He's been a friend for years, just amazing, has gone through the walk of, as we talk about this evolution of an insecurity and becoming a better focused servant leader. And then Katie Casada. Katie is a storytelling coach who is just an amazing ball of energy. And one of the things that I believe and know is that, as we've talked about our experiences, the leaders and the salespeople that do a great job of telling stories move and impact people. And so she's going to be there to share that and really kind of help people understand that leaders lead better when they tell better stories. So that's the lineup.
Man, that's really good. I'm sitting there going, okay, how do I get to Coeur d'Alene on that date?
Bring your RV. Just,
first off, Coeur d'Alene is beautiful. It's one of the prettiest places in America. So if you can't get your head and your mindset right there, man, you may have to look at some things about yourself. But it sounds like it's going to be amazing. I know if you're involved in it, John's involved in it, it is going to be something that is going to bring immense value to people. How do people find it? Like, is there a link?
So we'll have a link here. You can go to my website, tylerdickerhoof.com. There will be a splash for the registration, or you can click on Work With Me, and it's part of the annual summit under that. Again, I thank you for the opportunity, Jim, to just share about it. And here's my heart is I know that I'm going to get tremendous value sitting next to John and Graham and Katie and Jake, as they've already done that in my life. I'm excited. My cup will be filled those 2 days. I know it. And I want more people to, be able to experience the transformation that, John has helped me in my life. And so that's my desire and encouragement for people to be there is you will be changed. And when you talk about leadership, when you talk about this idea of how can you, as you talk about making impact, how can you help be an incubator rather than think I got to deal with people. And, if I didn't have to deal with people, it's like, I get to deal with people and it's exciting. I get to work with people. I get to serve people. I get to go through those relationships. And that is 100% because of John. John, because of Jesus. But I mean,
they're pretty tight.
They hang out. Yeah.
Tyler, this has been really, really good. It's first off, honor to have you on. You were one of those guys that really stood out to me at that event as truly being what
I had a shiny head. I get it. I understand. I got a shiny head, and
we both do. Like, that's the deal, man. Like, you should walk around with it. I wear a hat because I'm a coach. That's the only reason. So, and it's always been very athletic slanted for me, than like businessy type feel.
Yeah, no.
I would like to have you put a little bow on this, okay? A little bow on this conversation. Because there's people that are listening out there, they're going, wow, there was a lot of conversation there. There were some really good stories there. I heard a few of the points. But if you were somebody that was feeling some of those insecurities, feeling like maybe I'm not making an impact as a leader, feeling as if you're off course at all, what would maybe be the first, second, or third steps you might take to get to this point of really leaving an impact that goes beyond you, if that's something that you're truly chasing?
I'm going to share a story where my intensity came from. I grew up on a farm. I've shared that. Grew up in Ohio. And it was, here around the summer, it was a summer day. And it was Saturday afternoon, and we were going to bale a bunch of hay. And so my job was to get the wagons ready. So I had to air up the tires, I had to grease everything, the bearings, the tongues, make sure it was all set. So part of that is I had to back the wagon into our shop where the air compressor, the grease, all that stuff was. And it was kind of up a little bit of a hill. And so I was trying to back it up the hill, and I was only 14. So I had been backing wagons for about 6-7 years. So I kind of understood. And I kept spinning out, and the tongue was, kind of jackknifing a little bit. So I decided to pull it around, come in from a different angle, reset it so I could back it up. And as I did, I looked over to my left, and there was a grass area. And my little brother was out there playing. My little brother, Joel, he was 3. He was out there playing. And so I waved at him. And I proceeded to turn around. And as I turned around and I started back toward the shop to make a loop, I looked down on the driveway, and there he laid. I'd driven over him. He died. I was 14. He was 3. So called emergency personnel, proceed through that. It was maybe a half hour, 45 minutes later. And I'm talking to the sheriff, who's sitting on the hood of his car, and we're outside of the barn where our cows were. Again, dairy farm. And it was, by that point, probably 5:30. And we normally milk cows every day at 5 in the morning, 5:30 in the morning, 4:30, 5 o'clock at night. It's just the routine. That was normal. It was that time. And he's asking me questions. I'm like, it was an accident. It was an accident. And I'm kind of 14, a little frustrated. And he's asking me questions. I'm like, hey, I told you it was an accident. I'm done answering questions. I'm going to walk in that barn and I'm going to milk those cows. If you have any more questions, you can come with me. Other than that, we're done. And I said it just like that. And it was about 4 or 5 years ago, maybe 6 years ago now, 5, 6 years ago. It's when we owned our gym. And I just got done working out. And I sit down on the bench in the locker room and I fill up my shaker cup with water and put in my protein powder, and I'm drinking my shake. And as a person of faith, I hear God say, this is how you deal with things. See, at that point, we just had some employment issues where, it was, employees just not quite doing the right thing and, needed to have those hard conversations. And God said, again, this is how you deal with things. See, my solution at that point was put my head down and push. Oh, you don't like it? Too bad. This is the way it's going to be. And it was at that point that I realized my intensity was the barrier, the armor of my insecurities. And it was a moment that happened 23, 24 years earlier. So one of the things that I took from that moment is on the pursuit that I am in now. Why am I adamant to talk about insecurities, and the solution to insecurities is because my insecurity is what hampered me for 23, 24 years of my life until I recognized it and how it was showing. And there was a day that I was driving my son home from soccer practice, and I come to a stop sign and I look both ways and I hear God say, your brother's life has purpose. See, my brother's life has purpose because I just shared the story. My brother's life has purpose because of the growth that I've had to go through as a person, as a leader, as a father, as a husband, to embrace the insecurities, understand how they show, and not let the barrier be the bulldozer that destroys relationships. See, my brother's life had purpose because God taught me that lesson through it. My brother's life had purpose. And why do I do what I do now? Because his life has purpose. And each of our lives and everyone's life has a purpose. We're all a people of value. And so when it comes back to this transformation and the journey and why do I feel adamant about doing what I'm doing? Because my brother's life had a purpose.
What a story. Thank you, man. Thanks for sharing that. That's obviously something that has been difficult to deal with. I want to run over there and put my arms around you right now and just give you a big old hug.
You can do that next time you see me.
All right. You got it, man. Dan, no doubt about it. Deal with the insecurities. That's step one.
Yeah.
Well done. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for being on the show.
Absolutely, man.
Thank you for being who you are and this radical kind of approach in your world to serving others and seeing that as the impact that you make. I'm just like, dude, I want to hang around Tyler as much as possible.
I want to hang around Jim. I appreciate you. I appreciate how you're serving people. I appreciate how you're really making an industry that we need so many people to serve in, right? Because it's been underserved for an entire generation. And we see that to be realized, hey, to be a contractor is a worthy profession. It is an absolute profession that you can serve people and make a tremendous impact. So I appreciate what you're doing because you're creating a pathway for people that, honestly, my generation, I graduated in 1997 and I had a few buddies that went into different contractor roles, but so many of us were told your life is worthless unless you go to college. And it's like, all right, you can go to college, but guess what? Being a roofer, being a framer, being an electrician, being a plumber, being a whatever type of trade contractor you are, there is a tremendous need and it is a very worthwhile. Again, I came from a farm, right? Agriculture is just as worthwhile. And it's been industries like those that have been just I'm going to use a term, edited if you need to, pissed on by society. And not necessarily by, ill intentions, just that's what people thought. And it's also,
I'll be honest with you. And they need to be honest with themselves. They brought it on themselves to have that type of perception. And it's time to change and become truly business people that have a vehicle that can create the lifestyle that you want to live. It's something to be absolutely proud of.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
all right. Hey, brother, it's been great. It's good to have you on. Can't wait to see you again. I'm going to have to go look at those dates. What were the dates again?
July 29th and 30th. So it's a Monday, Tuesday, July 29th and 30th, Coeur d'Alene, Idaho.
Sure seems like I got something right there. I think I have like a mastermind retreat or something right there. Bring them. Okay. We got to get you to the mastermind.
Good. Why not?
The mastermind. Yeah. Come hang out with us.
Yeah.
Actually, Justin Rothlingshoffer is going to be there. He's going to come hang out for 2 days with us. I'm told, if you're going to come speak, you got to hang out with us. And so he's going to hang the whole time and have a lot of fun with another guy I met at this event. Yes. What's that?
Even more reason to bring Justin. Justin's a great dude.
He's awesome.
Great guy.
Yeah. All right, man. We're out. That's all we got time for. I love having you on here. I'm feeling like we're probably going to have another show in the future. So we'll get all the links in there. We'll get all the information to Tyler in there. And thank you. It was an honor to have you on today.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Jim.
All right. Hey, everybody. That was Tyler Dickerhoof. What an awesome podcast today. It went kind of all over the place, but it was really focused on these things that make impact. It's one of those podcasts I would probably go back and listen to and go, okay, there was that thing and this thing and that thing and that thing. Which one is the one that I may be insecure about or deficient in? And which one could I use some help with? And so feel free, if you're a contractor, you can reach out here. If you're looking for another avenue, another video, you can go and reach out with Tyler, go to his website. You got to go to this event. This event, I'm sitting there going, man, how do I get there with my busy schedule? I'm sure you can figure it out. It'll be some of the best time that you spend on yourself to propel yourself to become that impact-driven leader that you know you want to be. Thanks for hanging out with us on this episode, and we'll catch you on the next one. Have you heard that there's a social network just for you? Well, if you haven't, you're going to. It's the Contractor Collective. It's a purpose-driven social network that we built just for you, so you have a community that's just like you, sharing information to make us all better. No negativity, no distraction. If you're anything like me, you hate social media because of all the distraction and ads and all the other garbage algorithm telling you what you want. This allows you to create your own algorithm to follow the people you want to follow and get the feed that you want to have. There's also all kinds of other training content, groups to join, fun stuff to do as a community of contractors without the distraction of traditional social media. If that sounds like a good thing for you, go to the Play Store, go to the App Store, download the app and join today, or join right below. In the description, there's a link. Invite all your friends, and we'll see you inside Contractor Collective.